Have you ever noticed how just one sharp word, one careless comment can hijack your entire day? One moment of anger, and suddenly you're spiraling. Your heart races. Your mind floods. You say things you wish you could take back. Why does it feel like we lose all control when emotions flare? And more importantly, how do we reclaim that control? The Stoics had an answer. They believed the real battlefield isn't out there in other people, in traffic, in work stress. It's within. It's your own mind. That's where the war is won or lost. True power, they taught, isn't found in shouting louder, hitting back harder, or stewing in rage. It's in choosing not to react. It's in staying grounded when the storm comes. It's in refusing to hand your peace over to someone who hasn't earned it. This video will teach you exactly how to break free from the grip of anger, not by pretending you're not hurt, not by bottling things up, but by rewiring how you respond. You'll discover practical, time-tested Stoic techniques to help you pause before you explode. Step back from things that drain you and take command of your emotions like a warrior of the mind. Struggling with anger doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. Every man has felt the fire of frustration, the sting of disrespect, but few ever learn how to rise above it. That's where your transformation begins. So if you're tired of being controlled by emotional outbursts, if you want peace that can't be shaken, this is for you. Like this video, subscribe for more Stoic strategies, and share it with someone who needs a path back to calm. Because once you understand Stoicism, you don't just tame your anger, you become untouchable. And that changes everything. Here's your first shift. Think of anger not as a feeling, but as a habit. One you can unlearn. You weren't born snapping at drivers, slamming doors, or rehashing arguments in your mind at midnight. That reaction, it was taught, conditioned over years of stress, ego, and a culture that tells men to be loud, hard, dominant, or else be seen as weak. But here's the truth. Real strength doesn't need to shout. It doesn't flinch. It doesn't react to every little thing. The most powerful man in the room, he's the one who stays still, calm, undisturbed. Anger isn't just a mood. It's a pattern, a reflex. And like any habit, it can be broken, but only when you see it clearly. It's not just who you are. It's a chain reaction, a loop that keeps spinning because you keep feeding it. A guy cuts you off. Your boss belittles you. Your partner says something hurtful. And before your mind can even process it, your mouth lashes out. That's the trap. And most men never break free. They confuse habit for identity. But the Stoics saw it differently. Anger wasn't a trait to them. It was a kind of slavery. Epictetus said it best. Any person capable of anger is a slave to it. Lesson 1. Reframe emotional outbursts as habits you can unlearn. Last time, we uncovered a tough truth. Anger isn't power, it's a pattern. A reaction you feed every time you lose control. But what if you could break that loop? Here's the hard truth, one that stings, but sets you free. When you react without thinking, you give your power away. Just like that, to the person, the moment, the trigger. You become predictable, easily manipulated, emotionally drained. And the worst part, you think you're standing up for yourself. But really, You're letting the world push your buttons. Now, imagine this. You're at the DMV. The line is endless. You've been waiting for over an hour. Then, out of nowhere, someone strides right past you, cuts in like they own the place. Bold, rude. Instant heat surges up your spine. Your chest tightens. Your jaw locks. That snap is on the tip of your tongue. That moment right there, that's your battlefield. Will you charge into the same old war, lash out, escalate, regret it later? Or will you pause and ask yourself one simple question? Will getting angry actually make this better? You already know the answer. You've lived it. You've lost. You're cool before. And what did it ever bring you? Stress, regret, a lingering shame that pulls you further away from the man you're trying to become. This is where Stoicism flips the script. You don't have to shove your feelings down. You don't need to pretend nothing affects you. Instead, step outside the emotion. Watch it. Don't wear it. Like clouds drifting across a calm sky, acknowledge them, but don't let them steer. The ship. Your mind, your calm, rational self is the driver. That's what the Stoics trained relentlessly. Inner discipline, emotional sovereignty, and most men, they never learn this. They think their anger is a sign that they care. That staying calm means weakness. Or worse, apathy. But it's the exact opposite. Anyone can blow up. That's the easy road. What's hard? What takes backbone, maturity, and true inner strength is to stay composed when the world is trying to shake you loose. When someone disrespects you and you don't give them the show they're hoping for, that's power. When chaos erupts and you remain unmoved, that's control. So what do you do the next time that fire rises in your chest? You pause. You breathe. You remind yourself, this anger is just a habit, and I don't have to wear it anymore. Then you walk away, not because you're weak, but because you've grown too strong to waste your energy on what doesn't deserve it. You weren't put on this earth to be triggered. You're here to reclaim your power. And that begins not with changing the world, but with changing your response. Respond like a man who owns his mind. Respond like a Stoic. Lesson 2. Control yourself instead of trying to control others. Anyone can raise their voice, throw a jab, slam a door. That's the go-to move when a man feels disrespected. Lash out to grab some sense of power. But that kind of power, it's a lie. It burns hot, fades fast, and leaves you feeling even smaller than before. True control isn't about putting someone in their place. It's about holding your ground within yourself even when every part of you wants to erupt. Anger is a trickster. It whispers that if you don't react, you're soft. That if someone pushes you, you have to push back harder. That silence equals surrender. But think back, honestly, how many times has getting angry ever solved anything? You yell. They yell. Louder. So you raise your voice. You win the argument. But at what cost? You prove your point, but you damage the relationship. You walk away feeling victorious, yet you lie awake replaying every word you said. And in the end, you're left drained. Not because you were powerful, but because you were never really in control. You were just reacting. Now imagine this. You're in a team meeting at work. Your manager suddenly calls out your idea in front of everyone, shuts it down unfairly. maybe even with a smug tone. That fire rises in your chest. Your pride aches. Every cell in your body wants to clap back, to defend your name, to wipe that smirk off his face. But something in you, something wiser interrupts. A voice says, if I respond now, I'll only make this worse. So instead, you pause, you breathe, and calmly, you reply, thanks for the feedback. I'll revisit it. Then you move on. You don't let the moment control you. Later, in private, you speak your truth. But this time, it's not driven by emotion, it's led by clarity. That is real power. That is discipline. That is Stoicism in action. Marcus Aurelius once said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The Stoics never let pride take the wheel. They practiced response over reaction, clarity over chaos. They knew what so many men still don't. Trying to control others is a losing game. What you can control, what you've always had power over, is how you choose to show up. Most men make the mistake of thinking silence means surrender. That walking away makes you look weak. But think about it honestly. When was the last time someone exploded in front of you? Did you admire them more afterward? Or did they seem small? Rage is loud. But respect is quiet. When you keep your cool in the face of disrespect, you don't just stay composed, you become untouchable. And that rattles people far more than any shouting match ever could. Being stoic doesn't mean you stay silent forever. It means you choose how and when to speak. On your terms, not your angers. When you learn to delay your reaction, to give the heat time to cool before you act, you create space. And inside that space is where wisdom lives. That's where better choices are made. That's where your self-respect stays intact. So next time someone tries to provoke you, don't take the bait. Let them play small. You stay solid. Not because you're scared to respond, but because you refuse to be pulled into their storm. You rise. Not for them, for you. That's what true control looks like. It's not about having the last word. It's about having the last piece. So start today. Don't try to control the room. Control your breath. Control your tone. Control your face, your posture, your energy. And you'll walk out of every confrontation with something most men never find. Your dignity untouched. And that is a victory no one can steal from you. Lesson 3. Build calm like a muscle through daily practice. You can't expect yourself to stay composed in chaos if you've never trained for calm in silence. And that's the part most men miss. They wait until the fire is already raging, until they've been disrespected, triggered, or overwhelmed. And then they scramble to stay in control. But emotional strength doesn't show up like magic. It's not something you summon, it's something you build. You earn it in the quiet, in the moments no one sees. Just like your body won't grow if you don't train it. In the last lesson, we learned that calm is a muscle. But like any muscle, it won't grow unless you train it. And that truth doesn't change when it comes to your mind. You can't expect to stay grounded in chaos if you've never prepared for it in peace. Without consistent training, your mind won't magically hold steady under pressure. Self-mastery isn't a switch you flip. It's a skill you forge slowly, deliberately, with repetition. picture this. A man who's never touched a barbell walks into a gym and tries to deadlift 300 pounds. What happens? He gets crushed, overwhelmed by the weight. He didn't fail because he's weak. He failed because he never trained. Now take that same logic and apply it to your emotions. If you never practice the pause, never take the time to breathe, to sit with discomfort instead of running from it, then when life throws its first real punch, you fold, not because you're incapable, but because you're unprepared. Now imagine a different moment. You've had a long, draining day. You're finally home, hoping for peace. And then your child knocks over a glass of juice. It spills straight onto your open laptop. Your gut clenches. Your chest tightens. That old instinct wants to roar to life. But this time something's different. You've been working on this. You've trained. You breathe. You stay steady. And you simply say, "Let's clean it up." It seems like such a small thing. But it's not. That's a rep. That's strength in motion. And that single rep will carry you through far greater storms. This is the heart of Stoicism. It's not a philosophy meant for monks on mountaintops. It was built for life in the trenches, soldiers, leaders, workers, fathers, people surrounded by noise, stress, and daily conflict. Stoicism teaches that peace isn't something you find by escaping the world. It's something you build in the middle of the storm. And that building begins with the smallest choices, waking up a little earlier, to reflect, journaling your thoughts at night, choosing silence instead of sarcasm when you're annoyed. These aren't rituals for show. They're emotional workouts. They're soul reps. The biggest mistake men make? Waiting until the fire comes to prove they can stay cool. But that's not how mastery works. You train before the test. You establish rituals that anchor your breath, sharpen your awareness, and deepen your response. Because when pressure hits, you won't rise to the occasion. You fall to the level of your training. The Stoics knew this. Marcus Aurelius wrote every single day reflecting on what triggered him, what tested him, and how he could do better tomorrow. Not because he was broken, but because he was committed to becoming stronger. Epictetus, once a slave, taught that real discipline doesn't start in big dramatic moments. It begins in the daily act of controlling your thoughts, governing your emotional reactions, choosing calm over chaos, over and over again, until it becomes who you are. They practiced stillness as a habit, not as a last-minute reaction. So if you're tired of being the man who always loses it when life gets messy, be the man who prepares for the mess. Sit with discomfort instead of running to distraction. Notice your breath when your voice wants to snap. Reflect every evening, even if only for 5 quiet minutes. These aren't small acts. They are your emotional weightlifting. No one is born stoic. No one wakes up with perfect control. But the man who commits, who trains, who repeats, that a man becomes untouchable. You build your inner calm the same way you build anything else. With effort, with discipline, with time. So don't wait for life to test you. Test yourself every single day. Because when the noise comes, the man who trained in stillness wins. You had the perfect day lined up. Wake up early. Hit the gym. Knock out your to-do list. Feel focused, strong, ahead of the curve. But then traffic slams to a crawl. A meeting gets cancelled last minute. Your boss dumps an unexpected task on your lap. No warning, no heads up. Just like that, your plan unravels. And frustration, it builds fast. That tightness in your chest, that heat rising in your throat, it doesn't come from what happened. It comes from your resistance to what happened. You're not angry because things changed. You're angry because you thought they wouldn't. But life doesn't care about your schedule. The world doesn't ask for your permission before throwing a wrench in your day. And the harder you cling to how you wanted things to go, the more you suffer when they don't. That isn't weakness. That's attachment. And attachment, left unchecked, becomes a trap. A man who needs everything to go right in order to stay calm is a man who will never truly know. Peace, letting go, doesn't mean giving up. It means recognizing what's not worth holding on to. It's learning the difference between what's in your hands and what's already slipping through your fingers, no matter how tightly you grip. The Stoics understood this with brutal clarity. They didn't waste their energy yelling at traffic. They didn't get spun up by rude strangers or changed plans. They saved their energy for the only things they could shape: their mindset, their character, their response. So the next time something throws off your day, stop. Don't react. Step back and ask yourself one simple question. Is this within my control? If the answer is no, don't feed it your attention. Don't pour your energy into it. Let it pass like a storm in the distance. You're not ignoring it. You're choosing not to drown in it. That's not denial. That's discipline. One of the most common mistakes men make is thinking that control means forcing things to bend to their will. But real control, it's adaptation. Power isn't about making the world obey you. It's about staying steady when it doesn't. That's why Stoicism isn't passive, it's precise. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop wasting care on things that cannot be changed, and that shift frees up your strength for the things that actually matter. Now imagine this. You're in a parking lot. A stranger carelessly backs into your car and leaves a dent. Then, with a shrug and barely a word, he acts like it's no big deal. Your gut reaction: explode, demand justice, let him have it. But instead, something inside you stops the spiral. You pause. You ask yourself, will raging at him fix the dent? Will it make him suddenly care? No. So instead, you take a breath. You file the paperwork. You stay calm. You drive away not just with a dented bumper, but with your peace intact. That's the move. That's the win. Not because you let him off easy, but because you didn't let him take more than he already did. He got your mettle. He didn't get your night. He didn't get your peace. He didn't get your health. You kept those because you knew what to release, and you knew what was still yours to protect. Stoic strength doesn't roar. It doesn't cling. It releases. And in that release there's real control. So start asking yourself more often, is this mine to hold? If the answer is no, let it go. Because the man who knows what to carry and what to drop doesn't rage at every storm. He walks through it calm, clear, unshaken. Lesson 4. Let go of what doesn't serve you and that man. no matter how wild the chaos gets, remains in control. Every conflict is a test of mastery. Lesson 5. Turn conflict into a personal test of mastery. You can't avoid conflict, not if you're living, working, building, or engaging with people in any meaningful way. Someone will challenge you. Someone will misjudge you. Someone will test your limits, your patience, your pride. That's not a flaw in life. That is life. But here's the issue: most men approach conflict like it's a threat. A threat to their image, a challenge to their pride, a battle they must win to prove their worth. So what do? They tense up, raise their voice, try to dominate the moment. And in doing so, they completely miss the truth. Conflict isn't a threat to your power, it's a mirror of it. It reflects where you're still reactive, where your ego still calls the shots, where someone else's behavior can still pull you out of alignment. And that's why the Stoics saw every confrontation, every insult, every interruption, every unfair moment not as a setback, but as practice. Life, they believed, gives you reps. Opportunities to build your inner strength, moments to refuse being dragged into the noise. Picture this. You're at the counter of a hardware store. You've been waiting patient, respectful while the clerk helps someone ahead of you. Then suddenly, a guy behind you steps forward, flashes a receipt, and demands service. Loud, entitled. Eyes on him. Eyes on you. Your heart pounds. Your jaw tightens. You're ready to make a scene. But instead you pause. You ask yourself, what's really at risk here? My time, my ego, or my peace? And right there, you make your move, not by escalating, but by elevating. You don't roll over, you rise above. That's not weakness. That's power directed with precision. So many men get it wrong. They think that staying calm means surrendering, that not reacting equals being walked over. But here's the truth. When you let your emotions hijack you, that's when you've already surrendered. The Stoic doesn't avoid conflict. He just refuses to let it control him. He still speaks when it matters, but he doesn't speak through clenched teeth. He speaks with clarity, with purpose, with poise, because he understands something most never do. The only thing worse than being disrespected is lowering yourself to return that disrespect. And the more you see each confrontation as a test not of who's right, but of who's in control, the more unshakable you become. Conflict stops being a battlefield. It becomes your gym. You stop wasting emotional fuel on small arguments. You stop letting petty people shrink your world. Instead, you grow stronger moment by moment, breath by breath. That's how Marcus Aurelius lived. He ruled an empire, faced betrayal, war, politics, and still chose stillness. He didn't chase revenge. He chased integrity. Because he understood this, every interaction is a chance to practice self-mastery. Not once in a while, every single day. And the men who adopt that mindset, they don't just survive conflict. They move through it untouched, unmoved, untouchable. So next time someone pushes your buttons, try this. Instead of snapping back, stay silent. Instead of trying to prove a point, protect your peace. Instead, of absorbing their chaos become the calm they can't shake. Not to impress anyone, not to win approval, but because you've trained for this. You've risen above the noise, and you know exactly what's worth your energy and what never was. You're not here to react to every insult. You're not here to match low energy with more of the same. You're here to sharpen your edge, and conflict, that's your whetstone. Every moment of tension, every confrontation, interruption, or unfair jab is a chance to practice the thing most men never master: controlled response. Because that is how you truly win. Not with noise, not with ego, but with composure. And every time you choose calm over chaos, every time you keep your cool instead of unleashing it, you prove something far more powerful than dominance. You prove mastery, not over someone else but over the hardest battlefield of all, yourself. Lesson 6. Stay present, because your imagination is what makes you angry. It's not the moment itself that sets you off. It's not the words someone just said. It's what your mind does with it. It races 10 steps into the future, spirals 10 steps into the past. You're not mad about what happened, you're mad about what they might have meant what could happen. Next, what it says about you, what you should have said back. That storm in your mind. That's where most of your suffering comes from. And unless you learn how to stop living in the what was and what if, you'll keep losing control in the only moment that actually matters, right now. Men don't talk about this much, but it happens all the time. You get cut off in traffic. 3 seconds of inconvenience. That's it. But in your head, you replay it for the next 30 minutes. You imagine confronting the guy, yelling at him, teaching him a lesson. That anger, you carry it into your next meeting, into your next call, all the way to your dinner table. The moment's long gone, but your mind, it drags it behind you like a chain. And that's how small things become heavy burdens, because you never learned how to release them in the moment they happened. This is where Stoicism becomes your blade cutting through the noise. It teaches you only ever have this moment, not your past, not an imagined future. And in this moment right here, right now, there is no insult, no catastrophe, no past to fix. There's only breath, only choice, only action. Marcus Aurelius trained himself constantly to return to the present. Whenever his thoughts wandered, he reminded himself, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. Not tomorrow, not after you win the argument, right now. One of the most damaging traps we fall into is believing that our thoughts are facts. If I'm thinking it, it must be true, we say. But Stoics knew better. They knew most of what we react to isn't real. It's imagined. The untamed mind is the root of unnecessary pain. Left unchecked, your imagination will build enemies that don't exist, and arguments that never happened. Try this instead. You're walking into a conversation with someone you don't like already. Your body's bracing. You're preparing for tension, expecting disrespect. But stop, pause, come back. Be in the moment. Maybe they will say something rude. Maybe they won't. Either way, you'll respond better from a grounded mind than from one that's already fighting ghosts. This is why mindfulness isn't just spiritual fluff, it's a tactical advantage. It keeps your mind clear when your instincts want chaos. It gives you space when the world tries to squeeze you. And no, you don't need to sit cross-legged for an hour to get it. You just have to notice your breath, notice your posture, notice the sound in the room, the weight of your feet on the ground. Every time your mind tries to spin a new story about what could go wrong or what you should have said, you gently bring it back. That's training. You train your awareness like a muscle. You bring it back again and again until it learns to stay here. And when it does, you stop reacting to things that aren't even happening. You stop reliving what you can't fix. You stop rehearsing conversations that were never yours to win. Instead, you start responding, not from panic, not from fear, but from presence. That's where your calm lives. That's where your real power lives. You don't control what already happened. You don't control what hasn't happened yet. But you do control this moment, this breath, this choice. And if you can own that, even just for a few seconds at a time, you're not just practicing Stoicism. You're living free. And that kind of strength, no one can take it from you. Lesson 7. Drop the weight of resentment before it ages you. Resentment isn't just mental poison. It takes a physical toll. You've seen it. The man who looks exhausted even when he's slept. The one who moves heavy even when he carries nothing. The man who tenses up when someone offers kindness because all he's known is betrayal. That weight isn't in his muscles. It's in his heart. And the longer you carry blame, anger, and bitterness, the more it eats away at you. At your clarity, at your energy, at your ability to feel like truly light again. The sad part, most men don't even realize it's happening. They think they've moved on because they're silent. But silence isn't healing. Just because you don't talk about it doesn't mean it isn't shaping how you speak, how you trust, how you live. That grudge from 5 years ago, it's not in the past, it's on your back right now. It shows up in your sleep, in the sharp tone you use with someone who means well, in how fast you snap over the smallest things. And that's exactly why the Stoics treated forgiveness not as virtue signaling, not as moral superiority, but as self-preservation. Letting go isn't about making peace with what they did. It's about refusing to let it continue controlling you. Because every ounce of resentment you carry steals peace from your present. And no one, not even the person who hurt you, deserves that kind of power over your life. Epictetus said it clearly. You may fetter my leg, but not even Zeus can get the better of my will. That's what forgiveness is. Not approval, not forgetting, but refusing to be shackled from the inside. Think about a time someone crossed the line. They lied. They left. They embarrassed you in front of others. You told yourself you'd never forget, and maybe you didn't. But every time they cross your mind, your stomach turns. Your energy drops. Your peace leaves the room. That's not strength. That's self-inflicted punishment. You're replaying their offense long after they've moved on. That's the trap. You think holding on protects you, makes you stronger. But in truth, it only weakens you. The Stoic doesn't wear anger like armor. He releases it like a flame in his hand. Because he knows it burns the one who carries it the most. Forgiveness doesn't mean trust. It means reclaiming space in your heart for something better, something lighter. And it all starts with one simple choice. Stop feeding it. Every time you replay what they did, every insult, every slight, you reinforce the wound. You don't heal, you rehearse pain. And every rehearsal makes the damage feel fresh again. So stop reliving it. Stop feeding the flame. Start protecting your energy. Picture this. You're in the break room. Someone drops a slick comment, clever, cutting. You know it's aimed at you. You could snap back. You could take it home. You could text a buddy, vent about it, and let it stew until midnight. Or you could smile. Not because you're weak, but because you're done carrying trash that doesn't belong to you. You breathe. You walk away, and you leave the weight behind. That's not passivity. That's power under control. That's the quiet knowing of what deserves your energy. And what DOESN single quotes T. And when you begin to release resentment, you'll feel it in your body, in your sleep, in your thoughts. You'll stand straighter, breathe easier, think more clearly. Forgiveness was never a favor for them. It's a gift. You give yourself. You let go not because they deserve peace, but because you do. Because dragging your past into your present is costing you more than you realize. You've got more life ahead than behind. Make space for it. Because the man who travels light, he moves faster, breathes deeper, lives freer. And you can be that man if you're ready to finally put the weight down. Lesson 8. Pause before you react. It changes everything. It happens in a blink. One sentence, one sarcastic tone, one careless remark. Before you know it, you're halfway to raising your voice or slamming the door. And by the time you realize you're angry, your reaction has already taken over. That's how most men live, on autopilot, pushed by triggers outside them, pulled by tension inside them. And in that tiny, invisible moment between the spark and the fire, they give away their power. But what if that moment, that split second, wasn't where you lost control, but where you took it back? Stoicism begins in the pause, that sliver of space between what happens and what you do next. That's the real battlefield. Not the insult, not the argument, not the noise. The fight is in the breath, in the tiny delay where you ask yourself, do I react like I always have? Or do I respond like the man I'm becoming? Most never see that space. Their emotions outrun their awareness. They snap before they even know what's happening. But the moment you learn to recognize that space, everything shifts. You begin to realize just how much control you've always had, and just how often you've thrown it away. Now imagine this. You're at home. Your teenage son talks back again. That tone, that look in his eyes, it stings. You're about to snap. You can feel it building. But something stronger stops you. You take a breath and you say, I'm going to respond in a minute. That move right there, that's power. Not silence from fear, but restraint with intention. You just interrupted a cycle that's played out in homes for generations. And in that pause, you wrote a new one. The mistake most men make is believing that fast reaction equals respect. That hesitation equals weakness. But what you gain in those 2 seconds? Clarity. You give your mind space to think, to aim, to lead with strength, not reaction. That's what the Stoics trained for. Not the absence of emotion, but the mastery of timing. Marcus Aurelius never said, "Don't feel." He said, "Don't act unless it serves the greater good." And often, that good begins in silence. We live in a world that rewards speed. Text back now, react now, defend yourself instantly. But emotional discipline isn't about how fast you respond, it's about how accurately you do. It's about saying the right thing at the right time with the right tone. And you can't do that if adrenaline is steering the wheel. You have to pause. You have to breathe. You have to name what you're feeling before it takes control and turns into something you'll regret. This doesn't require years of meditation. It requires one clear decision in the heat of the moment. When the pressure rises, you pause. You tell yourself, "I don't have to react yet." You step into another room. You take 10 deep breaths. You ask yourself, what outcome do I actually want here? And then only then you speak. You move. You act. Not from ego, but from intention. The Stoic man isn't cold, he's clear. He isn't slow, he's steady. He doesn't repress what he feels, he commands it. Because in that pause, he sees more. He sees the consequences. He sees the opportunity. And he steps into both with a steady hand. From this moment forward, treat every tension as your training ground. When your heart races, when your face heats up, when your fists want to clench, don't move. Not yet. Let the moment settle. Then decide how you will own it. Because the man who masters the pause doesn't just win the argument. He wins himself. And that is a victory worth choosing again and again. Now you know, you are not a prisoner of your emotions. You are not bound to anger, resentment, or the need to react. What the Stoics taught, what men like Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus lived, was this: calm is not given, it's earned. Self-control is not denial, it's discipline. And peace is not weakness, it's power sharpened in silence. We've explored how anger is a habit that can be unlearned, how real strength comes from mastering yourself, how emotional calm is built through small, daily choices. You've seen that letting go isn't surrender, it's wisdom. That staying present is your best defense. And that in every single moment of tension, there is a pause, a window, a space where your character is forged. This isn't theory. This is your life. It's in how you speak to your partner, how you hold your ground at work, how you walk away from noise and stand firm in your values. Each moment is a chance to practice, and the more you practice, the more natural it becomes. This is how you stop being triggered by everything and start becoming untouchable. So I invite you, begin today. Train your breath. Hold your words. Master your pause. And build a mind that cannot be shaken by what it cannot control. If this message resonated with you, share your story in the comments. What moment tested you recently? What did you learn from choosing not to react? Because we grow by reflecting, and we grow even more when we help others do the same. And in the end, the man who can master himself, his thoughts, his reactions, his energy, is the man who owns his life. And that is the kind of strength that endures. If this video spoke to you, please give it a like. Share it with someone who needs it. And don't forget to subscribe to Stoic Capsule, where modern life meets ancient wisdom. Because the journey to emotional mastery begins with one breath. Let that breath be now.